This is Jeffrey Jones, also known as Triple J, coming to you with the Community Podcast. What we say community is only common unity. That is the tie between you and I. The tie for all, the tie that binds us, the tie that makes us, the tie that makes us whole. Thank you for being here with us for this common unity. Welcome everyone to the Common Unity Podcast. We are now in season 2, focusing in and around Rochester, New York. This supplemental video will be about the fourth industrial revolution. And why do we want to do this? We want to make sure that everyone understands what is on our horizon so that they can best take advantage of those things for jobs, for health, for wealth, for welfare in the future. And as we talk about 4IR, I'm going to apply it to Rochester. Let's look at the 70s in Rochester, New York. Early to mid 70s, there were huge corporations, huge. Kodak, one of the biggest in the film industry. Xerox was so powerful at the time, they didn't call copier machines. They called them Xerox machines because they had almost 90% of the market. We look at AC Delco, Rochester Products, Bosch and Law. There were many huge corporations whereby an individual could graduate from high school and get a job that next day making enough money to support a family. As we know, that doesn't happen nowadays. But we're looking to the future, not the past. So as we look into the future, we're going to look at the fourth industrial revolution. I know many of you have heard the term AI. Everyone wants to talk about artificial intelligence, the dangers it represents, and the good things that could happen from AI. But that's only a part of the fourth industrial revolution. What we need to understand is the fourth industrial revolution is going to change jobs. It's going to change the job market in ways that people can't fully predict right now. But there is some understanding of it. Those cities that are lobbying right now for jobs that will fit into the fourth industrial revolution are ahead of the bell curve. Those that are not are behind the bell curve, because 4IR, once again, will change employment across the globe. When we look at the fourth industrial revolution, we're talking about a combination. This combination of artificial intelligence, this combination of robotics, this combination, as you heard in the background, this combination of artificial intelligence, robotics, biotechnology, it all will work together hand in hand to change life as we know it around the world. So how do we take advantage of these things? We have to start looking at some of the job market that we know for a fact will still be needed to make our society work. We want to look at things like healthcare. That's one of the largest entities that will not be replaced by AI or any other fourth industrial revolution entity. Healthcare. We want to look at law enforcement. We want to look at the trades. We want to look at all those things that a robot will not be able to do, or artificial intelligence will not be able to supplant. One of the things that distresses me the most about this whole situation as it stands right now is that the government nor major companies are talking about 4IR. They're not talking about it. But you best believe that those major corporations, they're gearing up for it. And once they gear up for it, and it really hits full-fledged, it's going to be too late for a lot of us who haven't prepared for that change. So how do we prepare for that change? I tell you, you have to look into jobs for the future. It's not hard to do. Um, there are several sites on the internet where you can go and you can look at jobs that will be lost to industry due to our other means. You can also look at jobs that may not even exist right now that will become available because of those entities. You can also look at jobs that are current right now that will see very little change to those entities. I tell you, I'm going to make an example. Right now, Kodak. Kodak was the largest filmmaker in the industry. When you look at movies from the 60s and 70s, one of them has a little tag where Kodak was the filmmaker, film producer. So how did they fall off the wayside and lose tens of thousands of employees in Rochester, New York? There was no vision for the third industrial revolution. That third industrial revolution took place mainly in the late 70s and early 80s. It was characterized mainly by the growth of the use in computers and the digital age. Now, once we went digital, the film products that Kodak was making basically became obsolete overnight. Therefore, they had not prepared for the digital age, and therefore their company almost lost everything. I mean, if you look at Kodak now, it's a shell of what it was in the 70s. And there are many other companies that went through the same thing. So we have to look at what shifting employment demands will take place during change. Many companies experienced automation, right? But what did that do? Was it good for the average worker? No. What it did was it drove down. A lot of people were replaced by robots. You go into the assembly lines now in the major automakers, and what used to take 6, 7 people to do, now robots do it. So many of those jobs were lost. And that's almost any assembly type work that you will find. Robotics has replaced a large part of the staffing that used to be needed in order to make those things work. So what happens? Those people now have to work for lower wages because there's a glut in the market as far as able-bodied people to fill those jobs. There's more bodies than jobs. And when that happens, law of economics takes place. All right, when we look at jobs most likely to be affected by 4IR, those jobs will consist of food preparation, construction, cleaning, driving, agricultural labor, garment making, manufacturing, personal services, sales, customer service, business administration, information technology, science and engineering, hospitality and retail management, upper management and politics, teaching. Those jobs all will be hard hit by 4IR, as research shows today. As those shifting employment demands take place, many companies have experienced automation decreasing their numbers of full-time staff, and by 2030, robots will replace 800 million workers around the world. AI and automation technology will allow employees to carry out new productivity, enhancing jobs, and automation will result in the emergence of new roles in employment. 4IR is a union of advances in artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, Internet of Systems, blockchain, 3D printing, genetic engineering, quantum computing, and other technologies. It's the collective force behind many products and services that are fast becoming indispensable in modern life. Um, we must look, we must look ahead and how we're going to make sure that we as people are able to survive this fourth industrial revolution. There's an old saying, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. And that's something that's been going on in the world ever since the world began to spin. Now, when we look back at the first industrial revolution, it changed the world tremendously. This is when cities began to grow because prior to that industrial revolution, most people lived on farms because agriculture was the main thing that kept people going. But once we got the assembly lines and factories in place, we needed people close by in order to make them work. So thousands of people flocked to the cities where they could live next to where they worked. And once the companies had enough employees, the labor, the labor became a point of contention between those who did the labor and those who paid for the labor. And what those companies soon found out was if you get surplus employees, more people you need for the jobs, you can drop wages and folks are still going to come to work because they got to eat. And that same thing is manifesting itself as far as jobs are concerned with 4IR. One of the things that people or very smart individuals are talking about with 4IR right now is universal basic income. What is universal basic income? It's a stipend that's going to be paid to every individual in society of working age. And what this is supposed to do is offset the fact that many jobs will be lost through 4IR and the wages will most likely go down during 4IR. By providing universal basic income, it will give individuals a chance to become entrepreneurs. Also, it will give them enough money so that hopefully they can pay the rent, buy food, and survive. So a lot of that's going to be on the individuals, but we have to lobby. We have to lobby once 4IR gets in the full swing for that universal basic income. And a lot of people are going to listen to this and say, oh, what he's advocating is crazy. But if you look at some of the major economists in America today, they are advocating for a universal basic income as 4IR progresses. So please make sure you yourself, you can Google it. There are some books available to help you out. Learn about universal basic income and learn about why it's going to be needed. That way, those people you put in the office that are supposed to represent your needs will be people who you know will advocate for UBI. People who you know will advocate for you as far as labor is concerned. And that's one of the things that we always fail at. We always fail to put people in office who represent our best interests. And for the most part, the people in office, they represent big money because they get lobbied to do so. They get huge donations for their campaigns to represent these people. And that's what they do. So when we look at what's going on in the political sphere, it's not personal with most of those people. Most of those people, trust me, it's not personal, it's business. And their business, from the majority of them, is not taking care of us, as that is what is supposed to be done by them. We look at what representation we choose. And many times we don't choose wisely. I'll give you an example. Uh, I remember watching the 2016 presidential campaign, and there was an individual on there who swore that he was going to cut taxes for everybody. Um, and he said, well, as far as people like me are concerned, I'm not worried. I have billions. So when we cut these taxes for everybody, it won't be me who receives the benefit. It won't be people like me who receives the benefit. It'll be the average person like you guys are, and the crowd goes wild, right? 2017 rolls around and we get tax cuts put into place. Those tax cuts mainly benefited the 1%, top 1% of the population in this country. It resulted in people like Steve Bezos made $12 billion that year, didn't pay not 1 cent, not one red dime in taxes. And I'm not knocking him. He did what he was allowed to do. And you know what? There's a lot of other those billionaires doing the same thing. They lobbied and they got what they lobbied for. We thought we were voting for somebody who was going to help us, and it was just lip service. Because I know for a fact, after that, after that so-called tax break, the first year I broke about even. But every year after that, because they wiped out so many things that benefited the middle class in the tax code, I wound up having to write checks. I mean, at the end of the year, it was just I had to write checks to the IRS because they were taking more money than they ever took before. And it's not the IRS, it's the tax code itself. So we have to put people in office who are going to look out for us, especially with this 4IR and the way that jobs are going to change. So, that being said, I want to keep this short because every segment of this is going to be a little bit different. We're going to discuss 4IR, but today it was mainly the job impact of 4IR. Next, we'll be talking about the political impact. After that, we'll be talking about the impact of education. And I'd love to see some of you participate on our website, twiceblog.com, and put your opinions on record as to what you think about 4IR, what you think about artificial intelligence, and how you best feel we can take advantage of those entities. So there will be a discussion site once again on twiceblog.com. Please take advantage of it. And it's good to see you back for season two. Um, love all of you. Positive vibes only. Please come back. We'll post a new segment every week. We have some great organizations from Rochester who have agreed to be on this season. And I can't wait to put the stories out on how they best service the citizens of Rochester, New York. Um, Once again, please be at peace. Have a great day. Positive vibes only. Love you. Take care.
Hello, everyone. This is Sandra Jones, co founder of Community Podcasts. I'd like to say thank you to all our listeners and viewers. We're asking for positive vibes only. Thank you and have a great day.